live far away.
Not too far, right? Yeah. Doesn't one of them live in Doylestown area?
Right.
Yeah.
But we can't babysit for them. But I don't know. Some people do babysit, but we didn't.
Uh-huh. Okay. But now, tell me, switching gears, what led you to become a librarian?
I probably from my early childhood experiences.
Because you worked in the library.
Working in the library. And I thought it was a great way to be associated with higher arts, but not getting involved in higher arts.
Yeah, it's like it's almost like education. It's almost like a branch of
Right.
of the schools in a way.
I didn't know there was such thing as reference librarians.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I didn't know either. I found out after I was in college.
Okay.
And then, so you were a librarian, and then you became involved in the history collection here. And how did you become involved in the history collection here at South Brunswick Library?
Well, I worked from 1986. I volunteered, worked there was barcoding the books
Mm-hmm.
at the time, and they needed they needed as many volunteers as they could get.
Mm-hmm.
I worked part-time because I was at a time when I worked when my father moved in with us.
Oh, okay.
So
you were helping.
Right. So he was 98, 99, but he could do a lot, but he didn't get, he left an independent life.
Okay. But then, when you were here, how did you get involved with history here as far as the library goes, or otherwise in the township?
Well, someone said you take charge of the history affairs.
Oh, so someone said that you should do it, and then
Right.
you rose to the occasion.
Right. I was interested in history, so I thought it was great.
Yeah, and you've built, well, I can't really move the camera around here,
Right.
but we're in the archives right now, and Ceil has built a big collection in these file cabinets in back of us, and so, for example, these displays out here. So when I started here actually in 1999. I remember you were here, and you were saying that you were going to be involved too much with it back then, but it's been 20 years now, and you're still really involved with the history collection. It's a good thing for us, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I found out that there was a change in the township government.
Mm-hmm.
The charter study.
Oh, okay.
And I applied for, about that time, I applied for township historian.
Okay. So then you became a historian.
Right.
And that's right around the time a lot of things happened. That's the Hunter study.
Right.
Hunter Research did their studies of the township.
I was on the HTOPF or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it was for many years. And so we raised the issue of we get another study.
And while you were there and the Hunter study happened, what was probably the most significant thing that came out of the Hunter study? I know that a lot of houses and a lot of historic areas were identified, but Longbridge Farm, they confirmed that Longbridge Farm was somewhere that Washington stayed on his way to Monmouth. That happened
Right.
in the 2004 report from Hunter
Right.
Research.
So as a result of the Hunter report,
Mm-hmm.
they did more investigation about the Longbridge Farm, and they came out as a separate entity, and they decided that there wasn't any buildings that they could identify
Right.
from that area.
But
But,
if okay, go ahead.
but, so I wanted to go up to, get deeds on, the study, but I can't do them now.
Mm-hmm.
Probably I could go and get copies of deeds which were done earlier, but I don't know.
In the Longbridge Farm, they think is on the other side. Is where present-day Monmouth Junction is, on the other side of 522. Supposedly, they think it's in that area. Yeah, so that was a pretty significant find. In addition to the other things that they found there.
And reading the report recently,
Mhm.
I found that they didn't know whether the house was on the maps was large or not. They were saying the house was maybe big because of its importance, not because of its size.
Okay. So, what do you think? What makes history, local history, important? I mean, a lot of people, in your words, why do you think it's important? I mean, it seems apparent, but like, what would you say?
Well, you need to know where you began,
Mm-hmm.
and the papers, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. So yeah, you're saying it's important to know where you came from.
Well, we know we started Spall, and we know that some of the dates of the people, but we can't necessarily say that they were found in true
Mm-hmm.
dates.
Yeah, and also the thing I find that as people are interested in the local history because it's where they are, and they can identify with it because it's something. I mean, we had significant events that happened here, like Washington coming through, but besides from that, it's just because people are here and they see it every day, and there's still something that they can identify. I find that really seems to strike a note with people.
Well, for example, we got things from Mr. K. 1974, 1975, Valhalla, the Viking Press.
South Brunswick
And
newspaper.
that's great because we're becoming more of a school depository.
Right. We are. It is like a depository library for things around the township. So people bring things to us, and they've done that. Of course, that you built a lot of the collection from things that were donated and
Right.
things that you have identified and categorized, which makes it much easier to find.
Right.
And so that really helps us because we can find things pretty easily rather than just thinking they're in there somewhere. You've developed all those Excel sheets, and then we put it on the internet, and people can find
Right.
where it is in the collection, and they could come in and
And-
see it if they like.
And as far as local history is concerned, we learn the bits and pieces along the way. And we come to discard bits and pieces because we find out that they're not true. But
Sometimes.
you don't know what you don't know.
Right. Yeah, there's a famous quote by Truman, something about that. He said, I forgot. I don't want to say it because I forgot what it is exactly. But Truman's got a good quote about history. So, what would you say is your proudest accomplishment as a historian, a librarian, being the town historian, or just what do you feel most
knowing the people that founded the town. And I feel very happy when I be in the cemeteries, when I can, especially Cranberry, because I can see the people that were part of the founding.
So it's not something that's just written about in books. You like seeing the actual
Right.
physical presence, whether it's
Right.
a building or something like you said in the cemetery.
Right.
Yeah, I think that resonates with people in general because that
And-
makes it easier to understand the story.
Well, also, when you don't have a house, you don't have a story. So there's places along 130 which have been torn down because
Yeah.
they didn't have a house. They didn't have people to love it and care for it
And preserve it, yeah.
and preserve it.
It's much easier to understand the story. For example, the Weatherall House, Weatherall Mount House. For example, people can write about it and then they read it and they can still see the structure.
Right.
And that way it makes more sense to them and makes it more immediate.
Right.
And I think that's why preservation is important, is another aspect of
Well,
local history.
Once you just tear down the building, you don't have it anymore.
If you're lucky, you have photographs, but that's it, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. So, if you had any advice for young people who are interested in history or otherwise, what would you tell to younger people today about, not necessarily on history, but for example, if you can.
I would say know where you came from. Your individual stories are great, and they're all different. So know where you came from.
In document it maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
And the library has changed quite a bit since I first worked here. And that's an example of how the space can be done differently. Wow.
So yeah, before I see the library more with, at least with the archives. You've done programming with it, and you brought the archives out and done displays and
Right.
history talks. And I think that that's really important because it brings it to life. And
Right.
rather than it just being in the cabinet back here, you've made these displays that are in back of you. And people, when we've had our history day here, people have really gone over to those and are really interested because they can see Kingston or Dayton or Monmouth Junction, and they're from that area and they like to read about it. So that type of thing, I think that what you've done is really important, is bringing it from the cabinets and out into the light and people. I think it really resonates with people from the town and otherwise.
I did a lot more when the 200th anniversary of the township.
In '98.
Which 98, which is 20 years ago.
Right. It's,
And I haven't done, I need to repeat them because people need to be reminded, and so new people come along.
yeah. It's good to document it. Yeah. So you preserve things over the years. You categorize them and you brought them out to be displayed for programs. I mean, I know you've done a lot of programs. You've written articles for the South Brunswick Post back then, and we've since taken the articles and put them into pamphlet form here at the library for distribution over in front of the New Jersey section.
Right.
And people like those. We're constantly replenishing the supply, so people pick them up and read them. And during the various events we've had, like the History Day and National Night Out, those things are popular. So I think that just speaks to the idea of, your articles are even though they were probably written 15 years ago or maybe something like that. But the people are interested in, like the one, the train wrecks of South Brunswick. I mean, people want to hear about that. It looks very
Okay.
interesting. So
Right.
yeah, those things are important.
Well,
So
they're important, but also they tell a story. And just like the yearbooks up there
Mhm.
and the maps, they tell a story about your particular land. The stories are similar for particular lands, but they're special to your town.
right, right.
They're slightly different, and that's what you know about your town.
Each town has its own story. Yeah.
Right.
Now, how would you like to be remembered as the historian? I mean, we know you were the historian and librarian. You still are working. You still are the historian here, working in the library, in the archives. But
I continue to work in the library,
mhm.
and we get things every so often that boost our knowledge about the town.
In the donations and also the questions, we get questions posed. I mean, you were just working on one recently. Somebody had a history question, and then through your research, a lot of times we find things that go into our files because
Right.
you've discovered things that go into the files in back of us for people in the future to use, whether it could be
Right.
the near future. Okay.
Okay.
Well, Ceil, I'd like to thank you for giving us the time to make this video of your memories of working in the library and as a South Brunswick historian. And I know you'll continue to work too, but I just wanted to get a video snapshot of it.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Very good.